Welcome to another episode of Magic Proving Grounds, the only Magic the Gathering podcast that proves power creep is a thing and always will be.
So what you're saying is don't have a pet deck because inevitably it will fall to the wayside, right?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Actually, I concur.
John,
I thought power creep was that that extra creepy uncle who sat outside his niece's house.
or when Radiohead turns it up to 11.
It sounds like a super villain. Power creep versus Superman. Anyways, what have you guys been doing this week?
I'm Ben, by the way. I didn't get introduced.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to do that.
I threw you off.
Super villains. I'm your host, Moderator Dave, and with us this week is Ben, who already introduced himself, and also waiting for him to jump in.
Oh, I'm supposed to introduce. I am Superior Dave. Sorry,
he earned that title.
I didn't realize that I was responsible for my introduction.
Just trying some new stuff out, man.
I'm pretty sure you should be rolling the red carpet out for me after I trounced you over.
Get the trumpets out.
I deserve a band playing an introduction. I'd like a wrestler walking down the aisle. Like, where's my intro music?
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I want one of those.
Yeah.
Wonder how much I could get, like saliva or something.
I swear to God, if you put saliva as my intro music, I'm not coming back on the podcast.
Hey, it was the only washed up band I could think of at
you
the same
put some click click boom in front of me talking, and I'm walking out of here.
I'm done. So, other than hating on saliva, what have you guys been doing this week?
I have been messing with that deck that we brewed last week, and then also trying to figure out how to make Jund a thing that works. It's not going well.
That's Jund in Modern?
Yeah, in Modern, yes.
It works in Modern. You mean trying to make the Jund cards that you currently own work in Modern?
No, well, yeah, but it's the same problem I had last week, and I keep bitching about it, I know, but it's just not a very powerful deck. Even if you have the Renin 6, it's still not. It needs some cards. Hopefully with Dominaria, it gets some cards. Good news is that you can flex into other callers pretty fairly easy. So if you own Jund and you're sad because it's your pet deck, Death Shadow is a good option for you.
I vote you just keep staying sad. Jund had its time.
It will be back.
You can just be the sad Jund player of the comic book store.
I mean,
or the card shop.
I mean, every deck has its time. You know, Control had its time, and Azor's Control, and then it died, and Mono Red Aggro had its time, and then it died, and Jund had its time, and now it's dead. It's time to move on.
And now it's 4-color Yorion piles all over the place.
I cannot stand piloting that deck.
I've not piloted it, but playing with it is a nightmare, or against it is a nightmare.
Yeah, so I was helping a buddy of mine practice for Modern Tournaments once, and so he made a bunch of proxy decks for things that were in the meta, and I would pilot them against him and trounce him most of the time. But piloting that Yorion deck is like, it's my own personal nightmare. I already hate the idea of having an 80-card deck. And then add all that Yorion shit to it, and I'm just like, this is too much.
Yeah.
You can tell you don't play Commander because you're like, shuffling 80 cards is the worst.
It fucking sucks. I hate it.
I play Commander. I've got the giant Popeye the Sailor Man arms. You shuffle that.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's business.
It's a workout.
What have you been doing this week, other Dave? Superior Dave?
Mostly just taking that mono red deck that I beat y'all's ass with, and been playing that.
Getting other people with it.
Well, I can assure you that our appreciate the fact that you've moved on to other people.
Until we get these sideboards done.
Yes, we'll be doing sideboards later. But we'll talk about that later. I myself have been doing a little bit of brewing. I got to the point, and speaking of pet decks becoming unpowerful, my mono red deck, aggro deck, has finally gotten to the point where it's not winning enough for my liking, and I so I had to rework some stuff. So
on Arena,
yeah.
For what format?
Explorer.
Okay.
So took out some cards, put in the Soul Scar mages that I'd been like putting off including because I didn't want to spend the wild cards on them because they're rares. But I put those in there, and then I added some play with fires and stuff, kind of beef that up. So it's helpful in the sense that now it plays a lot more like the Pioneer variant of Mono Red Aggro,
right?
Which played completely different than my former Mono Red Explorer deck. So getting the practice in for when we finally get all the pieces for the Pioneer deck. Waiting on that Swiss Spear, which, if my prophetic abilities are correct, will be in Dominaria United. Hopefully.
If we were going to bet, I would bet you $10 it would not be there.
Oh, you want to make a bet?
Sure. Let's do it. $10. It's not in there.
I'll have 10. Can we do $10 worth of paper Magic cards?
Sure. And the reason why I say that is because they just printed it in Double Masters. So that's my big negative against it. But they changed the rarity.
Yeah, they rarity shifted it down. So I don't know. I still think they're going to print it. It's going to be in standard thing. Double Master doesn't get into the standard.
It does feel like one of those cards that like it dominated in the standard that it was in. Like you saw it all the time. That they would reprint and it would just kind of be like, okay, yeah, that's here now. Like the way Lotus Cobra was, like Lotus Cobra when it came out the first time, you saw it was in every standard deck. Every standard deck was flashing green to have a Lotus Cobra in it. Mm-hmm. And then when they re-released it in what's that? Was that in Zendikar?
Yeah,
Rising. It barely saw any. Like it saw play at the very beginning because everybody was like, I remember how powerful Lotus Cobra was, and then it was around for like a month and then it was gone.
Yeah, I had somebody play that landfall, like a landfall deck in paper and standard against me, and I saw that Lotus Cobra, and I was like, oh, that seems pretty powerful. And then I trounced him.
Like, so, maybe not.
That's not. Yeah, right.
And that, dear listeners,
again, power creep. Like, yeah.
But so I like the way the mono red deck is. I might tweak it a little bit more, but it's pretty good. Went ahead and picked up the Explorer anthology. Thought I was going to do some green ramp into the Eldrazi. Which one? The stupid looking one with the hands. 10-10 exiles 20 cards. Which one? What's the name of that one? Olgmar.
The one with hands.
Ulamog?
Yeah, the one with hands, not the one with the tentacles. The one with the hands.
Ulamog,
yeah.
Kozilek?
That one.
Okay.
Yeah, anyways. That one.
Get these hands.
Yeah. Fixing to catch these hands. No. So put together a deck. I was like, okay, turns out I don't know how to brew green ramp Stompy. So that was a complete disaster. I need to sit down and really give it a good think.
I think you need Shrine to Nyx to get that.
You think?
Yeah, to actually hard cast that, you probably need.
Probably because
Nykthos
is not fast enough. Didn't have enough threats. Yeah. I think I could make it a little better.
I know Green Ramp needs some early, bigger bodies just to fend off the wolves.
I was thinking about Walking Ballista and Hangerback Walker, adding those in there. See how that helps with the early and mid game.
You got Lair of the Hydra in there?
No.
Or a couple of them? Oh, you need those.
Okay.
Because you just pump it into a 12-12 or whatever and then attack.
Well, I'll definitely look into that then. So did that. Played a lot of the gate deck too, which we'll talk about later. I think we'll go ahead and move on to the news.
Dun, dun, dun.
1950s radio. Beep, 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 beep. Let's go ahead and talk about the summer sale. Not the Steam summer sale, which is drastically better, I would imagine, unless you only like Magic. But the Arena Cosmetic summer sale.
When does the Steam summer sale start?
Oh, it's already over.
It's over.
They start it for my birthday because I personally know
Gabe Newell.
Gabe Newell, yeah. Me and him are pals.
Does he send you knives?
Yes, all the time. All knives.
Knives as in the Sonic character?
No, like actual blades.
Cutlery.
He's obsessed with them. He has a whole collection.
Am I getting that mixed up with somebody else? Probably am.
I'm like surface level on Sonic lore.
Okay, let's go with Knives as in the character from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yeah, Chow.
Sure.
That one.
Did you just say sure like you haven't watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World?
I watched it once, man. It was all right.
It's a really good movie.
The way you say it, though, is like you either didn't like the movie or you didn't pay enough attention to know even what goes on in the movie.
That was a good, dude.
And either way, look, I've never been more disappointed in you.
I'm sorry. I am a disappointment to everyone around.
That's where I became aware that vegans get powers.
Right.
Is that not true?
No.
Look at Tom Brady, man. Like, come on.
Tom Brady's a vegan? The whole world makes sense now.
I don't know when he became a vegan, but I imagine it was somewhere before his second super run. You know how he had that middle drag in the middle, and then I think he became a vegan, and then just started winning Super Bowls.
It was right after he watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. He saw.
He's like, oh man,
Brandon Roush. He was like, man, that guy has played 6 superheroes.
He really has.
Yeah, because he was the Atom in Ant-Man, or not Ant-Man. He was the Atom in Arrow, where he transitioned to a different role somewhere
in Legends of Tomorrow or whatever.
He was Superman at one point. He was the vegan dude. The only person I think who's got him beat is Chris Evans, who has 7 comic book appearances.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Flame on.
He's got the role in The Losers. Captain America, Human Torch, Push, the Snowpiercer role. He's worn out the comic book welcome.
This week on Comic Books with Ben, Dave, and Dave.
I'll stop talking about my other hobby now.
Do Ryan Reynolds next. How many superheroes has Ryan Reynolds been?
1.
What? 2, at least.
No. That doesn't exist.
Oh, he was the guy from Blade 2. He was in 3.
He's got.
Oh yeah,
I think he's got 4, but I can't remember what the 4th one is.
Look, the green one is dead. He killed.
Look, say himself. What you want about the Green Lantern. All I know is that the bad guy in that movie was supposed to be fear incarnate. And I cannot think of anything more scary in the universe than a giant cloud of diarrhea coming to engulf the earth.
That is pretty... Sound like you're speaking from personal experience.
It's horrifying, man.
He's had to deal with lots of giant clouds of diarrhea in his life.
I've lost lots of sleep. Let's just say that.
Speaking of clouds of diarrhea...
Let's talk about the cosmetic sale on Arena. And... I don't know, there's not much to say. You like cheap cosmetics?
Other than apparently half of them don't work correctly.
Well,
So yeah, I had an experience with it because I saw the Tokyo lands and I was like, those look really cool.
Mm-hmm. They do look cool.
Basic land. I'm always down to spend some coins on basic lands because I'm always going to use basic lands every deck that I build. So I bought them, and then I couldn't find them anywhere. I was looking all through my basic lands. Doesn't exist. Nowhere to be found. And then I saw there was an issue with the Matt Jukes stuff. I was like, okay, well, maybe the same issues with my lands. I'll wait till they get that resolved. A couple of days later, I'm doing more research, and they're like, oh, no. You have to filter it by basic land and rare. Why would a basic land ever be considered rare? It makes no sense.
I really don't understand that.
Can you buy...
I would like an explanation.
Can you trade in wild cards for these Tokyo Land?
No. Because when you go to select them, it's like you can't... you must purchase this from the store or something, it says.
Why on earth would it have a rarity then?
I wonder if it's not their really backwards way of making it so you can filter... your basic lands. You want these, so let's just turn on one toggle instead of just building a skin for it.
To my knowledge,
you know what I'm saying?
It's the only one that I have like that. There might be other ones, but...
Well, so the Matt Jukes lands are a little different because they're not basics, but they should be uncommon. Those are an uncommon set of lands. I believe, right? Drowned Catacomb was uncommon.
Drowned Catacomb was
rare. Bound Crag. Oh, maybe these. Okay, I'm thinking of the bounce lands that are uncommon.
So these are the check lands, right? They're rares.
Yeah. Okay, so that's So I was thinking of the bounce lands. But anyway, so yeah, those deserve to be rares, but the basic lands, those should be in the basics category. I don't know. I think it's high time they just put like when you go to pick your basic land, you have like you click it and then you change art style, and then you have a whole selected list of your art styles, and you pick that one.
I think the issue with that is the amount of art styles that they have, because while there's not a lot of them that you buy, there are a ton of them that they add every set of just the basic mountain.
Yeah, and I know this is armchair designing or whatever, but you could put like a system for favorites, like a layer of favorites, like, hey,
they were
or recently used or something like that.
They were talking at one point about adding default, pick your default land type, like art.
Yeah, it's high time they implemented that.
They haven't got around to it yet, though.
I am weird about my lands, too. I like to include one of every one of my full art lands. So, like, I have one Nyx Mountain. Like, in every red deck, there's one Nyx Mountain, one Zendikar Mountain, and one Tokyo Mountain, at least.
You still win this way, too, because that's ill-advised for competitive play, in case they look at your hand.
I'll have you know that it's just way easier to not care.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm not too hell-bent on it, especially in paper Magic. If I have it, I have it. If I don't care.
Yeah, so I used to do something like that in paper Magic, too, where if I was running something, any card, actually, in paper Magic, I would like to run multiple different versions of it, like every artwork of it that I could find, like have 4 different lightning bolts. People were always like, I don't know why you do that. It's going to give away information. And I was like, I mean, maybe against the top level opponent, he's keeping track of how many different artworks of lightning bolts that I play. But if I'm taking up that much space in his head with just my lightning bolts, imagine what he's doing with all 4, or every card in my deck that's like that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with him trying to juggle all that information instead of focusing on the match.
Information overload.
You just went up another notch for like meta play, man. You're like out meting the meta.
I mean, feel free to try and juggle all that information. I don't really know what good it's going to do. You say that I have 4 different arts of lightning bolts. Like, what difference is that really going to make at the end of the day? I'm running 4 lightning bolts.
Yep, and you can count them. They're in the graveyard.
Yeah. So, like, what does the different arts, like, what kind of information is that giving someone that's...
I think the idea is that if they look at your hand, then if they see one art style and you play the other, then they know you still have the other one in your hand. I think that's the idea. You're probably more right if every card is like that, then they're just trying to juggle all this information, and it probably throws them off more than it helps.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, regarding cosmetics, I know it's all... We've actually, strangely enough, been on topic.
Yeah.
But there's some cool ones in the store, so I guess get them if you want them.
Yep.
I really like the Matt Jukes lands. My big issue is I got a secret layer of these Matt Jukes lands because I really love the art. I know it's very simple and stuff, but I just really like it. And I think they gave me a code for these, and now you can just purchase them.
Yeah.
Was it a code for the actual lands, or was it a code for sleeves of the art? Because they do that too. I'm
not sure because I've not claimed it.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm literally going to hang these in a frame and put them on my wall. I'm not like actually playing with them.
Sick. But, they are pretty neat looking. I'll give you that if you're into the abstract art style.
I think they give you the card sleeve or design on Arena too, but it might be.
So here's the thing: I pretty much guarantee to you, any cosmetic that you get from a digital code in Arena will eventually be available to the public. They didn't make that code to not make money off of it. They didn't make these cosmetics to not make money off of it. And after a while, once the secret layer is over and you can't get it anymore, or they can't make money off of it anymore. So they're going to put it into Arena to get a second round of money out of it.
Right.
I know the secret layers
makes the secret layer less exclusive.
Right,
I
the
guess.
physical cards are supposed to be exclusive like that, but they've never made that promise about the digital currencies.
You're right. I would check to see if I'm correct about them giving me those cards, but Secret Layer is not working right now for some reason. The website.
Wow. They're preparing for a new drop.
Oh no! What will it be? Okay, so you guys have anything else you want to add to this?
Secret Lair Fraggle Rock is coming.
Dude, I'd do it.
Don't even joke about that. I'd do it too, in a heartbeat. But seriously though, let's move on to the last bit
immediately
of news.
Followed by Secret Lair Golf Legends.
What would that even
sell like hotcakes?
You would take Lava Dart and you would rename it Hot Shot, and you would have like an image of a flaming golf ball. You would make a Tiger Woods card.
Would you also make a Tiger Woods Mistresses card?
No, but you see, you would need to be more subtle than that. You would make a Waffle House card.
I think you did it. Somebody give this man a job.
Yeah. Speaking of designing cards and doing jobs, Mark Rosewater every year puts out a State of Design article modeled after the State of the Union address. If you're an American, you get the reference. Let's talk about that. Why don't we?
Sure.
The point, I guess I'll explain, of the article is to just talk briefly about what they've learned during the design process for the sets that come out this year.
Yeah, and how they can improve in the future.
How people reacted to them, how they can improve in the future. Just like
it's like a layer of transparency.
Yeah, and lessons learned. If you're a fan of the process of game design, it's kind of enlightening from time to time.
He's got good information on his podcast too. If you want to check that out, I recommend it. Unless really you only have time to listen to one podcast and then listen to us.
Let's start with lessons learned overall, as the article starts with, and then they break them down per set, and then we can give our impressions. Why don't you start there, Ben?
In the lessons learned, he talks about they need to be more conscious about backwards compatibility. He says in this part, and then goes and gives examples later. You guys can read it. I don't think we're going to read the whole thing. I think we're just going to talk about what worked and what didn't in each set, right?
Yeah.
If we had one of those AI robot voices, I would say we should have them read the whole thing, but we don't.
Dude, that would be sweet. They want to be more conscious about backwards compatibility. How the new cards interact with the old cards. Mm-hmm. That way they can better shape the game instead of completely changing the way things work and then making the old stuff obsolete, I guess is what he's trying to, or hard to understand.
I listened to his Comic-Con panel for San Diego Comic-Con, where he introduced some of the Infinity stuff. And in that, he talks about how they're kind of changing how they look at design due to the fact that now the most popular format in the game is Commander, when in the past they had always viewed the most popular format to be Standard because that's where they sold cards and that's what new people would play in and stuff. So I didn't
need him to get on a panel and tell us that they understood that. They've been printing Commander cards ad nauseum for the last year.
Yeah, well, this new outlook as far as being more conscious about backward compatibility and stuff stems from that. So you're going to make cards that you just printed that have to interact with cards that you might have printed 30 years ago, and being aware of those kind of decisions is what he's talking about, I think, in this particular thing. And then he gives some pretty good examples later on in the article, but that's the general gist of the backwards compatibility overall point. And then also, since we're on the topic, the thing that little weirded me out about the overall his lessons learned is when he speaks about being careful with complexity, because also in the Comic-Con panel he talks about how now that the digital client is more mainstream with Arena, and how digital is really good at handling and tracking complexity, that they're more willing to do more complexity-wise.
Like push the boundaries of what's possible with Magic.
With Magic and complexity and tracking, because of digital exists. And in the paper form now, because Commander is the most popular format and also an extremely complicated format, that they're more willing to do complexity and stuff, but also he says
they need to be careful with it.
Learned that they need to be careful with it.
I mean, I agree with it, because even for me, sometimes, like, I will see a newer card, and if it has a whole bunch of stuff on it, I'll, like, if I have to read the card 3 or 4 times. And so I can't imagine what that is like for a brand new player to try and read that card and figure out what it does. And one of the things that is and always will be important to the survivability of a game is onboarding new players. Whether you like that or not, no matter how much it upsets a lot of the tryhards who've been around forever, your game will die if you don't bring in new people.
Oh, man, I love bringing in new people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a good example of this, I'm going to throw myself under the bus, is when I misunderstood the Winota triggers. Go back and listen to one of the earlier podcasts. But back when I played before, the wording of the cards had changed, and then I took the 15-year gap. And when I'm coming back, I'm looking at it like I used to look at cards, but they're wording them different now. And that might be confusing to some people. I know me, right? So, like, when it says whenever this happens, like, I assume the attack phase was a singular thing. Like, it happens once. So, whenever a creature attacks, so it's, like, not, you know what I mean? And I think that, like, them trying to do all this complex stuff can get confusing, even to people who have played before, maybe, returning. And that's just an example. There are way more complex things than that. That's actually my bad that I misread that. But, you know, if I can do that, I'm not a dumb person, you know, then, you know, how I would beg they got to really watch that.
I think it's understandable that you misread how that trigger works. It's you know, just the way the templating is on it.
Yeah, well, because sometimes it says for each creature that attacks. And then this one says whenever a creature attacks.
Does that trigger before or after damage goes on the stack?
The damage doesn't go on the stack anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. Okay. I'm not dumb. It used to do that. It used to go on the stack.
That was the point of what I said.
The last overall bit was that they need to be more conscious about how they talk about products. We'll just bring that back up. You put a pin in that. We'll bring that back up when we talk about another set down here, because a lot to say about this particular aspect. But we'll go on to let's talk about Midnight Hunt. That's the first set that came out in the year.
In this article, he talks about all the stuff that they learned from these sets, and I think we're just going to cherry pick things we want to talk about the sets, right? Correct?
Yeah, that's fine. So I'll go first and just bring up Midnight Hunt and the fact that it showcases his overall point on be conscious about backwards compatibility, because a lot of people were a little annoyed, salty, if you will, that werewolves from this new set do not work the same way older werewolves do. And that was a key sore spot for this particular set. And, you know, I don't know why they didn't see that coming, to be perfectly honest, because people were very upset when they changed how slivers worked. So,
how did they change slivers? Did I miss this?
Well, I guess you did, because it's been this way for a little bit.
It must have happened while I was out of Magic.
Was it 2010? When they released the core set, they changed before slivers affected the entire board. And then when they changed them, they only affect your side of the board.
Does it say that on the card, or does it?
Yeah.
So the old cards still work the same way?
The old cards still work the same way, yeah.
Okay. That right there is a problem. Like, I don't see the werewolf thing as a problem. It's just you have to make sure, all you have to do is remember which card does what.
Mm-hmm.
But the slivers, now it's like...
Well, it depends on the sliver.
When you mix and match, and then it gets confusing and makes the board state all messed up.
Yeah.
Which I guess with werewolves is that's a problem, because some of them flip on the day-night cycle and some of them don't.
I would say I think it's actually worse for werewolves because they're...
Yeah. I just thought of that, so maybe it is a problem. I don't play with werewolves.
But yeah, I didn't like werewolves originally, so the fact that they did it this time didn't really affect me any.
I actually don't like the day-night cycle. I think it's too much to keep track of.
I don't mind it. I think it's a worse mechanic in paper than it is digitally.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real perfectly honest with you. I don't understand how it works. It just does it. I'm like, okay.
It's a bad one in paper. It's harder in paper than, because digital it does it for you.
Right, because digital you have the little icon, it automatically switches it for you, whereas in paper you have to keep track of, did someone play 2 spells this turn?
Yeah, you might miss a trigger.
And then it gets even worse in paper when something like say I play a Brutal Cathar and then someone kills my Brutal Cathar. Well, you still have to keep track of the day and night cycle for the rest of the match, so that when I play my Brutal Cathar, or the second Brutal Cathar much later, they know what state it's coming in. And so even though there's nothing on the field that it affects, you still have to say, oh, well, no one cast a spell this turn, so gotta be nighttime, or someone cast 2 spells this turn, so we gotta switch it to daytime.
Now it's day. Yeah, so the day-night cycle is kind of just... middling, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. It's not my favorite mechanic by any stretch of the imagination.
It's good they tried it. I just hope they don't really do it more. But it seems to be like an Innistrad thing. So unless they go back there,
and I'm sure they'll go back eventually.
They probably will.
They go back to everything eventually, but just like they did not use the original flip mechanics from the first Innistrad, they don't have to go back to day and night cycles either.
That's true. The other thing that came or started and was finished in Crimson Vow is the slow lands. And when I first looked at those lands, I was like, oh, this isn't the greatest. But actually, I found over time and actually using them in different situations that I do like the slow lands. So the thing about slow lands is they come into play tapped unless you have 2 other lands, where the fast lands come to play untapped.
Yeah.
If it's... You
play far more turns after the first 2 rounds of play than you do in the first 2 rounds of play.
Yeah. So at first it's like, I don't want this coming in tapped, but the fast lands I've had more trouble with drawing later on, and then being like, oh, this is tapped now. That sucks. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you balance like your fast lands with your slow lands, and then you get a perfect meld, and then it works good. So I do like the slow lands.
Which is 0 fast lands, all slow lands.
You wouldn't play any fast lands? I don't
like the fast lands. I mean, for someone who plays aggro even, and my early game being more important than my late game, the fast lands just, there's too many situations. Like I said, even with aggro, you're playing more rounds after turn 2 than you are before turn 2.
Yeah.
And so there is a greater chance that the fast lands are coming in tapped than there are the slow lands.
Yeah, I would say yes. Because it's the first 2 turns, right?
And turn 3 and turn 4, even though I am in aggro, those turns are still important. It's still important that I drop a 3-drop and a 4-drop, or I double up on turn 4. Either way, it's important that I have access to that mana the turn that I play it.
The place I play the fast lands in the most is Modern, and I think they're bolstered by having fetch lands where you go get your shock lands, so you don't really... Yeah, I guess it is unfortunate when it's turn 6 and you draw a fast land, and you're like, oh, I was going to play a couple of spells, but now I can't. But yeah, the other formats I don't really... Like Pioneer, I don't really play at least 4 ofs. Fast.
I can't imagine playing 4 of either one of them, but I could see running like 2 slow lands or something.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go clear back to Modern, obviously fetches and shocks are your shocks and checks are kind of just all you ever really needed.
Those are your bread and butter, right?
And so if you're running anything else, it's like 1 or 2 of, unless you're doing something crazy with Cavern of Souls or whatever. But
right. Just a standard 2-color deck.
Standard 2-color deck, you probably just need your fetches, your checks, and your shocks.
Yeah, most mana bases use fetches, shocks. The Izzet Murktide deck uses 4 of the fast lands. But that deck operates on 3 lands, and I think it can get away with it because of that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense too. Once you move into Pioneer, I think it's really just about what you're playing. What you're running.
Yeah, because that's most like the Pioneer decks use lands. They're heavy. They're not smooth operating Modern decks at 3. You need more.
Well, Mark Rosewater has said it multiple times, and I tend to agree with him, is that the biggest mistake in Magic was printing fetch lands. The biggest mistake Magic ever made was printing fetch lands.
I do agree with that.
I don't disagree with that either.
They're just...
I mean, it completely changed the way Magic is played. If you remove fetch lands, Modern is a drastically different game.
Oh, yeah. Like at Pioneer, people don't want to adopt Pioneer because the fetch lands are banned.
Yeah, because it drastically...
I mean, they won't tell you that's why, but that's why.
It drastically changes your mana base and then smooths it out in a way that allows you to run less land, more efficient land, and to go multiple colors far easier than any other card.
And go fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Get exactly what you need to go fast.
Yep. Now that we've veered off into a Modern tangent, I think that it's time to move on.
The Crimson Vow.
Crimson Vow.
Everyone's favorite.
Uh-huh.
Sure. One of the key takeaways is that people really liked the wedding theme.
They did?
I didn't.
That's apparently what their market research seemed to suggest.
I mean, their market research probably knows more than I do. But
yeah.
But no one that I talked to was like, bro, I love the wedding theme.
I am neutral on the wedding theme myself. It is what it is.
I did like the Edgar Charmed Groom card because when he dies, he goes into his coffin and then comes back 3 days later. That was cool. But that has nothing to do with wedding.
Is Edgar Jesus?
He's Vampire Jesus.
That's the Jesus I can get behind.
They don't call him Vampire Jesus. They call him Emo Jesus.
I mean, that's fair. I'll give him that.
The blood tokens were cool in the set, though. I think that's my only notable thing about that.
I feel like the blood tokens fall into the category of this is cool because it is powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I liked it. I liked the synergy that they had with a lot of the cards that would do something when you used sacrifice the blood token. I liked the interaction in Limited with blood tokens and stuff. So.
Although, I think the naming of this is a little non-conventional. Like, clue tokens, draw a card. That kind of makes sense. But blood token, you'd think blood token would be something like, you gain a life, lose a life.
Yes, something like that.
But it draws a card.
I don't just
discard a card, but it just was a weird coming into that because this is the set that I started. It just released when I started again. I was like, okay, so then now there's like 7 different tokens that you can make with things. I'm exaggerating, but clue, treasure, blood, food, or whatever. And I was like having a hard time wrapping around which ones did what. And Blood Token was the hardest for me to get because it didn't make any sense. But the mechanic is cool.
Okay, well, moving on, let's talk about Double Feature. Oh, man. Double Feature, it really showcases the overall.
Everyone's favorite set.
Yes, when Morrow says we need to be more conscious about how we talk about our products, this is the set that really showcases the need to do that because, man, was this set just not what they sold people it as, you know?
Yeah.
With the whole unique draft experience, you know, people are expecting to get like curated selection of cards from both sets that did something unique, not both Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt smashed together.
Yeah, because I thought that's what it was. I thought it was like they pulled cards from each set, but they just smashed every card together in a set.
Yeah, and then just slap the Photoshop filter on it and call it a day.
Yeah, and these packs were like drastically more expensive too, which if you look at Crimson Vow specifically, there's not a lot of value cards in that set. It's the worst set that came out this year by far. I think that's probably universally agreed, at least standard sets. And the idea of paying more money for a pack to get worse cards than if you just bought Midnight Hunt.
What's in Capenna that's high?
The Leisure Shredder.
Oh, yeah, right.
Triomes?
The Triomes.
I don't think the Triomes are that expensive.
No.
I would look it up, but I don't want to.
And when I say value, I mean just like cards that are playable in multiple formats. Even in standard, most of the cards didn't take off until just here recently.
I mean, cards that are playable in multiple sets are also often defined by their monetary value because that is what drives up the monetary value is the fact that it's playable in other sets.
Listen here, pal. We don't need your logic. So, like, this is definitely the poster.
Don't make me get a little bog out here throwing his hands.
I do think that the double feature idea of making it the old black and white monster movie posters, make it look like that on the card is good in theory. But when you look at the cards, I think that it just looks too flat. I think most of them just look flat. They don't pop or stand out, or I think they just put like you said, a Photoshop filter over it and called it a day.
The thing that this would have required to make it cool is custom art. Because if you're going to do black and white art, you have to design that art as black and white from the get-go.
Right.
Like, because you have to have notable contrast to make things interesting. And when you just slap a Photoshop filter over a
flat layer
piece of art that is done in color, you lose a lot of dimension. Like, so the design of that kind of thing has to be thought about ahead of time. Like, have you seen the pictures of the Munster house in color, like the set?
No.
Versus, obviously the black and white, and how they really went out of their way to make it look a certain way so that it looked good in black and white.
Yeah, some of it might be purple and green, but normally it's supposed to be brown, but you don't see that because it's black and white.
Yeah.
Because they really paid attention to the contrast, right?
The Monster House set for like the living room area, the opening area that they do, a lot of the show in is like bright pinks and purples because that's what looked good when you filmed it in black and white, right? So the design has to be a certain way from the get-go to get it to pop.
Yeah,
in black and white.
I mean, you could theoretically go in and like highlight certain sections and then up the contrast in certain sections to make certain parts of the thing pop, kind of like they do with the foil etchings.
Well, there's also there's just a fundamentally different way that Magic cards are drawn or done. So, like, for example, black and white sketch variants. Like, I know I said I was done talking about comic books. Apparently I'm not. Black and white sketch variants are very popular in comic books. They do it often where, here's the main cover and then we did a black and white sketch variant. But that's because comic books are drawn in pencils and then inks, and then color is added. Because most Magic cards are just painted. Mm-hmm. There is no black and white sketch for them to reference with that. There is no bones to the painting where black and white makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that
kind of a dud.
Double feature was definitely a low effort cash grab on their part. And I think it really bit them for it in the long run. So I guess we'll move on now, unless you have anything else you want to say.
No.
To Kamigawa, according to Wizards, the home run set of the year. Do you guys agree with that take?
Yeah.
I agree with it from their perspective.
I agree with it from my perspective.
I agree with it in the fact that I love Kamigawa, and I'm glad we're back, and I love the cyberpunk aesthetic and the neons. I think they really...
really if you love Kamigawa, you should probably be upset because you only got one block of it this time.
Well, I mean, look, when you've been told for the last 15 years that you're never going back to Kamigawa and that nobody liked it, it sold for crap, and that, you're never going back, and then you go back, you're like, I'm happy. Would I have liked to have been on it for more than one set? Yeah.
It is weird because, when I thought about it, I was like, I remember liking the Kamigawa cards, but also Kamigawa was the set that I quit during for a while. So
I'm not sure it's a Kamigawa problem versus it came after the Mirrodin block. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Mirrodin block. A lot of people like the Mirrodin block.
Yeah. It's a great block, but try following that. You know what I mean?
I guess that's fair.
Well, the Kamigawa did have its problems. I'm not going to say that it didn't have mechanical problems, but
they upside down cards and stuff.
Their attempt at the double cards, and
the Kitsune Mystic was one of my favorite cards. I've built around that card multiple times.
Splice to Arcane was hella parasitic, where you could only play with cards from Kamigawa to make it work. Which
it did have some design issues.
Yeah, it did. But
there were some standard decks that were just not fun to play against. I remember that.
Yeah. The Neon Dynasty variant of Kamigawa, I appreciated it all around. I think it's definitely my favorite set this year that came out. The channel lands are and have proved to be very valuable in multiple formats. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is off the rails in Pioneer.
I don't know.
Standard all around.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good idea to ever set out to fix a broken card.
Right.
So the Fable of the Mirror Breaker specifically, I feel like such a big deal has been made out of it, but I have never felt like I was playing against that card and it was unfair.
Yeah. I mean, it's a must kill for sure. It's not that annoying.
Yeah. I have not had any overly large
issues it's coming.
It.
Yeah. The other thing, the Wandering Emperor will single-handedly take over a game. That's great. I love that card. And
the real reason you like Kamigawa comes out, and it's just the Wandering Emperor.
Waifu.
it's wafu nonsense. We're on to you, man.
And reconfigure. I loved equipment when it was introduced in Mirrodin, and I always said, why can't I just unattach this from my creature? And now you can. And it's even better than just unattaching it. You turn it into its own creature. It's great. I think design standpoint, that's they knocked it out of the park.
I do like reconfigure. I'll give you that. Pretty good.
Channel lands, getting around to Fairy 3 nonsense. It's great.
I've got no complaints. I think we could talk all day about how great Kamigawa is. But rather than do that, let's move on to Streets of New Capenna.
Connive is good.
Yes, Connive, I think, was a real hit. I think one of the lessons they mentioned in there that I want to bring up is that Mark Rosewater agrees with nearly everyone in the fact that the Triomes should have been called Triomes. and not Xander's Lounge and Proving Grounds. Although I do appreciate Proving Grounds for obvious reasons, so can't be too mad about that particular card.
Can they just call it the Proving Ground Triumph?
Yeah, they could. Yeah. The Proving Ground Triumph. Yeah, Proving Grounds Triumph. I can dig it. So they're
just make a secret layer and
with Godzilla reskins on them.
No, just
so I think those were the big takeaways about Capenna particularly. Do you guys have anything else you want to add about?
I mean, I like the art style.
I liked all the animal character types, creature types. Oh my goodness. My brain hairwired. All the animal character, Jesus, Lord Almighty, creature types. Were cool. I liked raccoons. I liked that, and that was another thing they had mentioned was that people like the animal creature types. All right, let's wrap up the year of design with Battle for Baldur's Gate, the paper version, and then if you guys want to take a moment to complain about Alchemy, we can do that too.
The only thing I have to complain about in the paper version is you make Commander Legends 2 be a D&D set that they just released in AFR, and then you reprint some of the cards from AFR instead of printing other cards that might be more of Commander staples.
Yeah, Dockside Extortionist.
Yeah, well, they were saving that for Double Masters.
Oh, yeah, well. We know why, but I'm just saying, those are...
But Deadly Dispute was just printed, and then they reprinted in Battle for Baldur's Gate, but they could have printed a more important commander card that might be harder to find.
Yeah.
Or, there's other examples in the set, too. But a lot of what people complained about was it didn't feel like a commander set. It didn't feel like it was giving you commander staples.
Yeah, I agree. I think people expected more reprints and got none of what they wanted. They didn't get any magic callouts. That was one of the things that the original Commander Legend set was really known for, was it harkening back to the yesteryears of Magic and giving us, in particular, legendary creature cards for characters that have really become iconic. And then we get none of those things in this set. If you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan, you got some good stuff, I suppose. But nothing that really fed a Magic fan's desire for.
So when somebody says this is a commander set, you're expecting old cards being reprinted that are harder to get a hold of, so make it more accessible for commander. Throughout the year, they've shoehorned commander into every single product. They make specific cards in every single set for commander, and they already did it with AFR, and they're making do you need a Commander Legend set anymore? And if you're going to make one, make it reprints. Don't make it new cards. You've already done that all year long.
Cards and reprints.
Sure, but a wider percentage of reprints.
Yes.
And not reprints of cards that just came out in the last year or 2 years. Yeah. Older ones that you can't find. That's what people want.
Yeah, that's what people wanted, yeah.
I'm hoping that they learn their lesson with that.
Yeah. I think the only positive thing, and I can't speak to this because I never played the format, that they mentioned about this particular set was that people liked the draft format, which I did not play.
That's not what I heard. Or, sorry, I heard that they didn't like the pre-release. Because typically in pre-release, it's a sealed. But this one was a around-the-table draft in the pre-release. And people did not like that.
Well, that's a lot to expect, especially from new players. Yeah, pre-releases, that's the whole point of pre-releases, to get new people to come into the stores and try stuff out. And then you expect them to draft when that is drastically more difficult to do than digging through your pile of cards and putting together something.
And it's a pre-release, so you don't know what's in the set, really, unless you're super into the cards. So you don't know what your draft strategy is, right?
Yeah. And if you're super...
If you're more of a casual player, it's not good for you.
Exactly. So, but overall, Wizards felt that people liked the draft format. But like I said, never played it, can't speak to it. Baldur's Gate Alchemy, I don't know. What are your guys' opinion on that? You want to touch on that a little bit?
I haven't really played with it, so I don't know. Using a design problem is using the same art for a different card.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. That. Yeah, we've already beat that drum a little bit. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of the draft format. I played it a couple of times. I didn't really like the alchemy aspects of the draft format. So
yeah, I'm not really a huge alchemy fan, so I didn't really play it at all. You want to take a break? Let's take a break. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome to the home of the John Junkers. I'm the proud owner, Mr. Chambers. You're a Mr. Goyf'ed, is that right?
Yes, that's right. But you can call me Tarm.
Okay, Tarm it is. You are applying for a position on the team. As such, I invited Coach Waters to sit in. He evaluates all his potential team members.
Thank you, Chambers. I have a keen eye for slackers. You aren't a slacker, are you, Goyf? No. I only get better the more the game goes on. The more things are out of the game and filling the yard, the stronger I get.
Oh, I haven't seen you play recently. Not even sitting on the sidelines.
That's because I'm a star. I don't get sighted in. Teams are built around me.
Forgive Coach Waters. He can be a little bit overzealous. Tell us why you want to be a part of the team.
I'm a ferocious competitor and difficult to put down. I've been known to close games out.
Oh, okay. Impressive. We are looking for players who bring something special just by walking onto the field. Do you have any abilities like that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we look for team players. Players whose sheer presence make those around them better. How do you improve your teammates?
Well, I don't really...
Current game plans are focused on removing everything in the yard. How well can you stack up against this adversity?
I can still block, I guess, but not a whole lot.
We need someone who can consistently attack and defend. Play both sides. We need a gasher. Can you bypass defenses in any way? Trample through them? Go over the top?
No.
Can you put the pressure on as you come in? Go right for the throat?
No.
What are you here for? Are you vigilant? Menacing?
No.
Okay, look. You seem like a nice kid, but you're past your prime, Goyf. Things are different now. They're harder, faster, stronger. Hell, ever since the competition turned up the heat, players like you aren't even sideline worthy.
Well. What Coach Waters is trying to say is you were quite popular in your time. I feel like you still have the hearts and minds of the fans. That's why we're excited to offer you the job of team mascot.
Moving on to the main discussion. So let's talk about sideboards. We did the challenge decks last week, and there was a lot of back and forth between certain individuals about sideboarding and how their deck would be better or worse because they didn't have a sideboard.
I think that you're misrepresenting the discussion here. The discussion was actually how important sideboards are to the game of Magic.
Yes.
And the counterpoint was that this challenge was a best of one, and that's what we were playing to. So we are talking about sideboards to see how they would improve our decks, or the play for how we would do it if we were playing for a best of 3.
Yes.
Is that right? That accurate? Okay.
That's the give or take. The point being, let's move our best of 1 decks into the realm of best of 3 and talk about how we would build sideboards for them based on what we understand their weaknesses are and what have you.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
That's discussion. Who wants to go first? Should the winner go first, or should the super loser go first?
I'll go first since mine is pretty simple. I think the 2 things that I have been struggling with playing the deck have been elves if I don't have a Chain Whirler in my hand, and the other burn deck. And so I was thinking about adding some sort of lower end board wipe to help with those 2 decks.
Mm-hmm.
Adding some artifact hate, because I do see a lot of artifacts that I would like to destroy. So probably put a Braid in for that.
Braid's a good card.
And then the other thing that I was debating putting in some lava coils to help with reanimation decks.
I think that's a good add.
If I'm gonna build a sideboard, I'm probably gonna move Roiling Vortex to the sideboard and bring something else into the main board, probably Annex, to give me something with a little bit more power.
Okay, what's Annex do specifically?
Annex has power equal to your devotion to red.
Ooh, yeah.
3 toughness. He is 2 red, 1 colorless. He is an enchantment creature, and when he dies, if his power is greater than 4, you create 2 1/1 red Satyr tokens that cannot block. If his power is less than 4, you only create 1 of those tokens.
Yeah, that's a good add for the main board if you're going to sideboard out Vortex. I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, Vortex is in there for best of 1 because I play against so much life gain and also so much of the Arcanist, which plays stuff for free.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to be sideboarding, that's better to bring in against those decks rather than just have it main board. I would put Annex in its place.
Excellent. How would you counteract the burn deck specifically with sideboard cards? I don't know if you covered that.
Primarily, I think I would bring in a Braid and whatever else I add to get the stuff lower to the ground so that I can kill their creatures more readily. Because right now, the only thing that I have that kills their creatures is Bone Crusher. But like with that burn deck without Soul Scar Mage and without the Gitu Lava Runner is really not that much.
Okay. So you're doing the Braid for both artifact removal and to kill burn decks faster.
Right. And then I'd probably even bring in the Lava Coil just to make sure I can kill all their creatures.
Nice. Okay.
I would probably take out Robber of the Rich in that matchup because they're probably going to empty their hand faster than I am.
Right on. Okay. Any other things you're going to add to this sideboard?
I was debating adding an Embercleave, but I just don't know what matchup I would use it in.
Okay. So I expect to have your sideboard submitted on my desk by 5 o'clock, along with your pictures of Spider-Man.
Which pictures of Spider-Man?
The really juicy ones, obviously. You know what I'm saying. Let's move on to.
There is a picture of Spider-Man. There's a comic book that I have been trying to get recently that I have not been able to find anywhere. That will be my picture of Spider-Man.
Nice. All right, I'll submit
whenever I get it.
Yep, on my desk by 5 o'clock. Just the cover. I want to see what you're talking about. Anyways, back to the podcast. Let's move on to Ben's deck, and let's hear what he has to say about sideboards and what to do about them.
I'm going to start my discussion by saying I've changed my deck a lot since before. I wasn't really completed brewing it. I'm still kind of messing around, but I removed red entirely because I realized Dave's point of one card for red, even though the card was really cool and it helped, it made it the mana inconsistent. So I removed red entirely and went a kind of different route with how I make the Thopters, because that's the whole point, making the Thopters. I added some Esper Sentinels to improve card draw and the Psi Master Thopterist. My artifact balance is a little heavier now after the changes, so Psi has more value because he makes a Thopter whenever you play an artifact. So, cast an artifact.
Oh, now you agree that Psi has more value after you argued with me about it for like a half hour?
No, I said there was 3 choices, and the last build of my deck was using a Steel Overseer when I had to lock it in, and I should go back to Psi. That was my thing. Anyway, so with those changes in mind, I think that as far as the sideboard goes, I actually win pretty consistently in best of 1. I haven't done ranked yet. I'm still kind of wading in with it. The thing that I noticed that I probably should have more is more removal in the side for those faster matchups. So put some cheap removal in there. Have the rest of the March of Otherworldly Lights in the sideboard. Those are really handy. I also have thought about Chalice of the Void might be helpful on the side. Something like Curse of Silence, where you name a card and they can't play the card, or they can play it but cost more, or like a Pithing Needle would help to kind of spot hate certain matchups. And then just some counter magic.
What kind of early removal are you looking into?
So it'd have to be pretty much white. So, like I said, the March of the Otherworldly Light, even something such as Fateful Absence, or I don't know exactly what's on Arena. So I'm trying to just pick standard stuff because I know that's there.
How would Settle the Wreckage work in this deck?
That is something I've also thought of. Because then when they hit me with a bunch of creatures, because that's kind of the weakness, right? Early game creatures, then I just destroy all their creatures that are attacking, and that would be handy.
Yeah. That requires you to keep up, what is it, 5?
4.
4.
It's
white,
double.
colorless.
Yeah, I was going to say it's double white. So.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that I do, if I'm not just casting a new card, I use a lot at the end of turn. So there's a lot of instant stuff, or the Retrofit or Foundry. I typically do it at the end of turn unless it has relevance. So keeping up like counter magic or Settle the Wreckage would not be a bad thing, or like a thing that's tough. So
awesome. Do you have any suggestions for his sideboard there, Other Dave?
I don't really know what matchups he's struggling in, so
I'm not really. Just yours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just mine. You still have March in there, I assume, the main deck. Yeah.
Yep. And I used Banishing Light, but there was another card I came across that does the same thing but has added stuff, so I'd switch that out in the main.
I would almost... So if I'm the only matchup you struggled against, I'm going to assume you might struggle against that new burn deck as well.
Probably. I just haven't come across it.
I would think about Portable Hole in the sideboard.
Oh, do I not have?
Yeah.
Oh, I had that in one time. I'm not current using it. Yeah, Portable Hull's good. It's an artifact, too. That might even be worthy of main, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know how main worthy it is, because there's going to be a lot of matchups where it's just not relevant because of how low to the ground it is. But I could be wrong, too. It might play great. That would be something you would test out, but I definitely think it at least deserves a sideboard spot.
Good thought.
Trying to think. There's probably some like artifact cantrippy things you could put in there that draw you a card. Like, was it Mind Stone? Do you sacrifice any of your artifacts to anything?
One of my iterations did.
You sacrifice to Retrofit Foundry.
Yeah.
But is that any artifact, or is that...
It's a Thropter or Servo.
Yeah. I'm thinking specifically.
I keep saying Thropter, but it's Thopter.
Yeah, the Ichor, I think, is that what it is that the Doom Foretold deck uses?
Ichor Wellspring?
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the 2, you play it, you draw a card. When it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card.
Yeah.
Because if you had a way to sacrifice it, then...
Psi, Master Thopterus, also sacrifice to draw.
So is that in any artifact, or is that Thopterus, though?
It's just any artifact.
That might be a good thought then, because then you get the draw from it and you get the draw from Psy. It would be a good way to fill your hand up.
I might experiment with that
in
main, actually. Kind of low on spaces, but...
Those are the ones that instantly come to mind.
Excellent. Okay. Again, I expect you to submit your sideboard to my desk by 5 o'clock so we can put them on Moxfield. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief rundown of where my deck is. After we fixed it and added the guild summits and the plazas, it smoothed things out a little bit better. The card draw from Guild Summit really helps bring the deck out a little faster. That was the thing that we were most struggling with in the challenge. So that's good. The things I've noticed as far as potentially problematic matchups for my deck have been like Super Friends decks. I had no interaction with Planeswalkers. So you pop down a Planeswalker, it's going to be there the rest of the game. There's nothing I can do about it. Which is crazy frustrating when Teferi starts just vacuuming your board and you've got nothing you can do about it. So what I ended up doing, because I didn't know this card existed until I was looking into things, I switched out Rabid Bite for Thrash and Threat, which is a card from Ravnica Allegiance, and it's the double split modal card that the first half for Hybrid Gruul mana, 2 of those, is a Rabid Bite, but it also affects Planeswalkers. So
nice.
Target creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or Planeswalker for Hybrid Gruul, so 2 manas.
The other one makes a 4/4 beast, is that correct?
Yeah, the other one makes a 4/4 beast, which is helpful when I'm not getting my gate-specific threats like
right. No,
Ram
that makes a lot of sense.
and whatnot. So I switched that out. So that kind of helped in that aspect, but I feel like I probably need more than 4 threats for those Super Friends decks.
So in the Super Friends decks, is it specifically like Teferi that you're struggling with, or are there other?
It's cool, man. There's one deck that is, I think it's an Esper deck, that is just every fucking Planeswalker, man. The Liliana is like Professor Onyx. And the one that makes is Professor Onyx, the one that makes zombies. It's a Liliana that makes zombies, and then sacrifices. It's just every Planeswalker, honestly, just in general, but mostly the really the Esper variant of that Super Friends deck is the one that I really had lots of problems with.
If it was anything else, or if it was just that, I was going to say you should put Fry in your sideboard. But
what's Fry do?
It's 5. It's 1 red, 1 colorless, instant 5, and it can't be countered, which is important in a lot of those Super Friends decks because they almost always have blue.
Yeah.
And it deals 5 damage to a creature or Planeswalker that is white or blue.
Okay.
So it goes after Teferi, little Teferi, Ashiok.
Yeah, that's helpful because I will probably consider. I'll probably put that in the sideboard because Narset, Parter of Veils, stopping.
Yeah, goes after Narset.
Is rough. So yeah, that's definitely something I'll add. Another deck that I've had problems with is the enchantment curses deck, where they just drop all the damn curses on the board.
Okay.
I have no enchantment interaction, so I was thinking about adding some of that, but something better than just destroy enchantment. But what's the one that it's destroy all enchantments? There's several of them, but what's the one that
Tranquility is what I thought of, but I think that's older.
Yeah, that's older, but this is Tranquility, but newer than that. Is it Naturalized? Is that what it is? I don't know if it's all.
That's not
or not,
all,
but
I don't think.
No, I think it's one. But obviously, like an enchantment board wipe, for sure.
Oh, there is a white one that is like you can choose.
Back to nature.
Yeah, that's it. So definitely adding something like that in there. And
it only costs 1 green and 1 colorless, too. It's really... And it's an uncommon.
That's dope. Yeah, that's definitely going in the sideboard. Then the freaking Gruul Land Destruction deck is particularly painful.
Oh, I bet.
So, what is your thoughts on just keeping a couple of basic land in the sideboard and popping them in for when they, like, Field of Ruin me, I don't lose mana or whatnot?
I have 2 thoughts there. The first is that it's probably a good idea to run 2 basic lands main board anyway.
Okay.
Actually.
That's what I was thinking.
Just for that situation.
All right.
And then the second was that you could run maybe in the sideboard, put some of those indestructible artifact tool lands.
Ooh, yeah, that's better.
And then also in the sideboard, I would think about Boseiju.
Boseiju is nice. Pithing Needle stops the Field of Ruin.
What's the channel effect on Boseiju again? I know it's destroy enchantment.
Artifact creature enchantment.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That would be good because I don't have any artifact interaction too, so that might be.
I would say it's a little bit broader. They do get to search up like a basic land or something. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But it gives you a way to deal with enchantments and artifacts.
Excellent. Yeah, those are all solid suggestions. I think that we're going to go ahead and.
Do you ever have a problem with creatures like going too wide on you or anything? Does Gates of Blaze pretty much deal with that?
Gates of Blaze is really good at dealing with that, as long as I draw it.
Well, hopefully with Guild Summit, you draw it more often than you used to.
Oh, certainly I do. So that's good. Also, if obviously in the red decks, you understand that early threats are bad threats. Yeah. So being able to take those out with the Bone Crusher Giants and the threats, Threat and Thrashes have been good. So I typically don't get overwhelmed too bad before I can draw a Gates of Blaze. So I typically don't have issues with go wide. I think we're good with dealing with those main deck as is in most cases. So seems like we've wrapped up this discussion. I think we've all got good directions for our sideboards. Again, we will be posting the new versions of the decks plus sideboards on our Moxfield page. So when we post the show, just go to the show notes and you can look at everything that we've done in the sideboards and how they changed versus the original constructions of the decks for the challenge. Those are already up there. So I think overall this exercise has been interesting as far as walking through the deck brew process and stuff. So I hope everybody found it at least kind of interesting and informative. Anyways, all right, now that we've ended the last challenge and we've thoroughly sideboarded our decks and whatnot, let's talk about the new challenge.
Okay, what's the new challenge?
It's my challenge because everybody has done a challenge so far. So
you should win this one?
Oh, probably not. But this is in more my wheelhouse because we are going to build decks for the Gladiator challenge. The Gladiator event.
It is out of my wheelhouse.
What is the Gladiator challenge?
Yes, we will post a link to the announcement for this. But the Gladiator event is a new format for Arena. In the fact that it's not really a new format. It's funny how they talk about it in the article and read it in there, but the gist of the Gladiator event in the Gladiator format is that you have a 100-card singleton deck. So it's commander without the commander. And then you play best 2 out of 3. That's the format. So
just to be sure, this does not exist in Arena yet. So we cannot actually we have to trust each other to stay within the format. Is that correct?
It starts at August 11th and ends August 15th.
Yes. You can build a 100-card deck.
I don't think this is going to be a continuing format. I think it's just for the event, or at least that's what it sounds like in the blog post.
And in terms of how we are building this,
yes,
anything goes, any card goes, or
there is a list of cards that are banned. The thing that is interesting about this, and it says it in the article, is that this is a fan created format. So people have been running these things since 2020. So while it's not officially supported in the client, it's always been something you could do, to answer your question earlier. So anyways,
it's like Commander without the commander.
Yeah.
Or Brawl without the commander.
Cards that you're not allowed to use are Field of the Dead, Natural Order, Nexus of Fate, Oko, Thief of Crowns, and Teferi Time Raveler. Those are banned. Can't use them. Don't try. Obviously, also, in case you want to build a really crappy deck for this challenge, y'all, cards that bypass deck limit also bypass the multiple copies in this format as well. So persistent petitioners, and what was the other one? Rat Colony or whatever it was. It was in
Seven Dwarfs
Dominaria. Yeah.
Seven Dwarfs still has the 7 card limit.
Yeah, but you can have 7.
So if you want to build a 100 card Rat Colony deck, you can. I don't know why you would.
It's crappy.
There you go. That's a thing.
Challenge accepted.
I might do it just because then I can just blame that and be like, it's a meme. That's why I lost. Okay, so going over the gist of the challenge again, because we kind of went pear-shaped there for a minute. 100 card singleton format, best 2 out of 3.
No
That's
sideboard.
the gist of them. No sideboard.
We can use alchemy cards?
Yep.
You can use any card in...
they're original versions.
All cards available on Magic Arena are legal in their original versions, except for the following banned cards.
Okay.
So if it has... you can use Goldspan Dragon, but the paper version, not the alchemy version.
Mm-hmm. But assumably, if it's an alchemy card that was created for alchemy, it just functions as its normal.
Yes. So you can use the gates from Baldur's Gate, as they have no other version. Got it? Got it. Okay, so for all interested, we will be streaming our challenge event on Monday at 1 in the afternoon, and you can catch us on our Twitch channel. Check the show notes for the link.
And that's at Eastern Time.
Yes. We run on East Coast time. All right. Well, now that we've announced the challenge, let's wrap the show up. Ben, why don't you tell everybody where they can find us?
You can find us on Twitter at MPGPod. You can find me on my personal Twitter at BeNiceMPG. Where can they find you, Moderator Dave?
They can find me on the Twitter Spaces at Dave_MPG. Other Dave still has not discovered that the internet exists. But if you'd like to send him an email to the show, we will relay the information to him. You can go ahead and hit up show@magicprovinggrounds.com. You might also want to send Ben an email explaining to him why his Rat Colony Gladiator deck will not work, because I think maybe he's thinking about it. I'm getting vibes.
There's 100 cards. Is a lot of cards.
It's all card draw removal and rats.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's the show. Cue the outro music. Dude, I gotta piss again, and I gotta go cook.
You're on a diuretic?
No, I just drank a lot of stuff this morning when I drank a coffee, drank a Dr. Pepper, and then I have like a 40-ounce water bottle I've been drinking out of. So,
oh man,
it's so bad.
Are you
man.
doing like a kidney cleanse?
No, I just drink that much water in general because, look, I like to drink water when I'm bored. I don't know.
Better than alternatives.
Yeah, I just drink a lot. Like if I'm not doing something, I'm just like, time to drink. It's not because I'm thirsty. It's just I like sucking on straws. Like,
yeah, okay. It's healthy for you.
Yeah. So anyway,
just don't do the thing where they hold the Wii for your Wii and then die because you didn't pee.
Yeah, then I want my kidneys to explode, man.
Yeah, you should probably go pee.